Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. When I walked through my front door that afternoon, I knew something was wrong immediately. Not because the house was quiet, not because the lights were on in the living room, but because everyone was already sitting down, like they'd been waiting for me, my husband, my son, my sister-in-law, and a man in a gray suit I'd never seen in my life. I was still wearing my black funeral coat. It was soaked through from the cold February rain, clinging to my arms like it didn't want to let go. My hands were shaking, not just from the cold, but from a memory of watching my mother-in-law's casket disappear into ground less than an hour earlier. 10 years. That's how long I had taken care of Margaret, from the first stroke to the last breath. I stood frozen in the doorway, my wet shoes leaving dark marks on the hardwood floor she used to polish every single Saturday, even after she needed a walker. Ryan, my husband of 23 years, was sitting in her chair. He had never sat there before. Not once. Not even when she was alive. "Elena," he said without standing, "we need to talk." My stomach dropped. My son Daniel was on the couch, shoulders hunched, eyes glued to his hands. 24 years old and suddenly mute. Chloe, Ryan's younger sister, sat beside him with a thick folder on her lap, sunglasses still on, indoors, like she was hiding from something or someone. The man in the suit sat near the window, posture stiff, hands folded like he'd rehearsed this moment. "Can I at least take off my coat?" I asked quietly. "This won't take long," Chloe said, her voice sharp and rehearsed. I hung my coat on the rack Margaret had bought at a garage sale years ago. She'd laughed when she brought it home, telling me how she talked the price down by $5 like she'd just won the lottery. Ryan pointed to the ottoman. "Sit." "Not please." "Now you okay?" "Just sit." Chloe opened the folder. "I found Mom's will," she said. It was in her bedroom, in the drawer with her medications. My chest tightened. Margaret and I had talked about her will late at night, during those quiet hours after everyone else had gone to bed, after Chloe stopped answering her calls, after Daniel moved out and came by maybe once a month, if that. She left the house to Ryan. Chloe continued, running a manicured finger down the page, along with her savings, about $480,000. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the ottoman to keep myself upright. "And for you," Chloe said, finally looking up. Her sunglasses reflected my face back at me. Pale, exhausted, older than I remembered. She left $5,000. For your service. For your service. 10 years. 10 years of setting alarms every 3 hours so she wouldn't get bed sores. 10 years of pureeing meals and feeding her through a tube. 10 years of bathing her, dressing her, lifting her, medicating her. 10 years of chemo, radiation, and hospice nights where every breath felt like a countdown. $5,000. "That's not possible," I said softly. "Margaret told me." "Mom was on a lot of medication." Ryan cut in. "She wasn't always clear." "She was clear." I snapped. "She told me the house would be mine. She said it was only fair." "There's nothing else in the will," Chloe said, tapping the page. Black and white. That's when the man in the gray suit cleared his throat. "Mrs. Chun," he said, "I'm Brian Patterson. I've been asked to witness this reading and inform you that you have 48 hours to vacate the property." 48 hours. I looked at my son. Daniel. He didn't look up. "Dad says this is what Grandma wanted," he muttered. Ryan stood. He looked taller than I remembered. Or maybe I just felt smaller. "You'll get your money," he said. "Daniel's staying with us. You need to pack and leave." Us, like I was already erased. The lawyer repeated it, calm and mechanical. "After 48 hours, eviction proceedings will begin." I stood slowly. "I understand," I said. They looked shocked, like they expected tears. Screaming, begging. But caregiving teaches you something brutal and valuable. You don't fight every battle the moment it starts. Sometimes you wait. I went upstairs to the bedroom I'd shared with Ryan for decades. The room where I slept with one ear open, listening to Margaret's breathing through a baby monitor we'd repurposed when she got worse. I pulled out my suitcase, and at the bottom of the closet, behind everything, I saw it, the envelope, the one Margaret pressed into my hand 3 days before she died. "Don't open it until I'm gone," she'd whispered. "Promise me." I'd promised, and as I zipped my suitcase shut, I had no idea that envelope was about to flip everything upside down. I thought I was being thrown out with $5,000 and nowhere to go. What I didn't know was that Margaret had already seen this coming, and she left behind something powerful enough to destroy them all. I didn't cry when I checked into the motel. I think part of me was still in shock. The place was one of those roadside motels you only notice when you're desperate. Flickering neon sign, cracked pavement, and a lobby that smelled like old coffee and bleach. The heater rattled like it was about to give up, but I didn't complain. I was too tired to care. This was my life now. According to my husband and his sister, I was worth $5,000 in 48 hours. I dropped my suitcase on the bed and sat beside it, staring at the wall like it might explain how everything fell apart so fast. 10 years. 10 years of putting my own life on pause. 10 years of being the responsible one. The one who always said, "It's fine, I've got it." I pulled the envelope out of my bag. The paper was soft from being handled so much. I'd almost opened it at the funeral. Almost ripped it open when Ryan told me to leave my own house. But I hadn't, because when Margaret asked me to promise something, I kept my word. I slid my finger under the seal. Inside was a key, just a simple metal key, taped to a small white tag. First National Bank, safe deposit box. My heart started pounding. There was also a folded note, written in Margaret's shaky handwriting. "Elena, I know my children. I prepared for this. Trust me, the real will is in the box. There's proof. Video, too. Call Bernard Winters. His number is inside. I'm sorry you had to learn this the hard way. You deserve better than what they'll try to give you. With love, Margaret." I sat there for a long time, just breathing, because suddenly things made sense. The late-night conversations, the way she'd squeeze my hand and say, "You're stronger than you know." The way she looked past Ryan when he talked, like she'd already stopped trusting him. The next morning, I drove downtown. Bernard Winters' office was above an old bakery, the kind that still made everything from scratch. The smell of cinnamon rolls hit me as soon as I opened the door. Margaret used to love those, back before swallowing became hard. Bernard Winters was exactly what I expected. Gray hair, kind eyes, firm handshake. "Mrs. Chun," he said gently, "I've been expecting you." That's when I knew. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. And Margaret hadn't forgotten me. He led me into a small conference room and unlocked a metal box with the key. Inside was another envelope, a thick folder, and a USB drive. "This," Bernard said, opening the folder, "is Margaret's official will, executed last June, properly witnessed, properly notarized." He started reading, and I swear my knees almost buckled. "The house? Mine. For $100,000? Mine. Ryan and Chloe? $25,000 each, with a no contest clause. If they challenged the will, they'd get nothing. Daniel? $100,000 in a trust, accessible when he turned 25. I stared at the papers like they might vanish. But they showed me a will. I whispered. Chloe had it in her hands. Bernard's expression darkened. "That document," he said calmly, "is a forgery." My stomach dropped. "Forgery is a felony," he continued. Margaret was worried they'd try something like this. That's why she documented everything. He plugged the USB into his laptop. Margaret's face filled the screen. She was sitting in this very office, wearing the blue cardigan I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago. She looked tired, but sharp, focused. "I am of sound mind," she said clearly, "and I am making this recording so my wishes can't be twisted." She didn't sugarcoat anything. She talked about Ryan and Chloe's absence, the missed calls, the broken promises, the way they treated her care like an inconvenience. Then she talked about me. "Elena has been my caregiver for 10 years, Margaret said. She gave up her career, her sleep, her freedom, her dignity, so I could keep mine. My throat tightened. She deserves this house, Margaret said firmly. She earned it, and if my children try to take it from her, they deserve nothing. The video ended. I sat there, shaking. Bernard slid another folder toward me. Medical logs, care records, statements from hospice nurses, all saying the same thing. Elena was the only one who showed up. What happens now? I asked. Bernard leaned back. Now, we file this with probate court, and your husband and sister-in-law will be strongly advised to accept their money and walk away. And if they don't, I asked. His eyes hardened. Then they risk losing everything and facing criminal charges. That night, I drove back to the house. My house. And for the first time in days, I smiled. Ryan thought he'd won. Chloe thought she'd outsmarted me. What they didn't realize was that their fake was about to land them in handcuffs. I didn't go back to the house quietly. I didn't sneak into the garage or tiptoe around like I was still a guest in my own life. I walked straight up the front steps and unlocked the door, my door, with a calm I didn't even recognize in myself. The house smelled different now. Empty, like it had already started forgetting me. Boxes were stacked in the hallway. My things, my clothes, my books, my life were shoved into corners like clutter someone meant to deal with later. I stood there for a second, just letting it sink in. Ryan really thought he'd won. I started unpacking. Slow, deliberate. Every drawer I opened felt like reclaiming territory. I didn't rush. I wasn't running anymore. Then my phone rang. Mom! Daniel's voice cracked. Where are you? I'm home, I said simply. There was a pause. Dad said you left. I was told to leave. I corrected. There's a difference. Silence again. Dad's freaking out, Daniel said. Some lawyer keeps calling. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. 3 days later, 2 police cars pulled up in front of the house. I watched from the living room window as uniformed officers stepped out. Calm, professional, no drama. That was the scariest part. Ryan opened the door. I saw his posture change instantly. Shoulders stiff, smile gone. They showed him their badges. Ryan Chun, one of them said, "We need you to come with us." What is this about? He snapped, trying to sound confident. Forgery, attempted fraud, possible elder abuse, the officer replied. Chloe appeared behind him, sunglasses on, again, like they were armor. She didn't say a word when the second officer turned to her. They were handcuffed on the porch. The same porch where Ryan once told me to pack my things. I didn't step outside. I didn't need to watch them leave. Daniel called that night. He was crying. I didn't know, he kept saying. I swear I didn't know. I believed him. But belief doesn't erase consequences. You should have asked questions, I said quietly. You should have shown up. I'm sorry, Mom. I know. The court case moved fast. Too much evidence. Too many records. Too many witnesses. Ryan and Chloe took plea deals. The house was legally transferred to me within weeks. I changed the locks the same day. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. Daniel started visiting every Sunday after that. At first, it was awkward. We sat across from each other, drinking tea, avoiding the heavy stuff. Then slowly, he started asking questions about Margaret, about caregiving, about the things no one ever talked about. And I told him the truth, not the cleaned-up version, the hard version. 1 year later, we planted roses in the backyard, Margaret's favorite. Daniel wiped dirt from his hands and looked at me. She knew, didn't she? He asked. Yes, I said. She knew exactly who people were. That night, alone in the house, I found Margaret's final note tucked into a photo album. Permission to stop shrinking. Permission to take up space. I cried, not because I lost something, but because I finally got myself back. I thought justice would be the ending, but what came next was something even bigger than revenge. Winning didn't feel the way I thought it would. There was no rush, no victory lap, no sudden sense of everything's okay now. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in after years of noise finally stop. The house was mine, legally, officially, undeniably mine, but every room still echoed with Margaret's absence. Her favorite blanket folded over the arm of the couch, the dent in her pillow where her head used to rest. The medicine cabinet. I didn't have to organize anymore. For 10 years, my entire identity had been built around care. And now there was nothing to manage. No alarms, no emergency calls, no one depending on me to survive the night. I didn't realize how lost that would make me. Daniel kept coming by every Sunday. At first, it felt like he was trying to make up for lost time in fast forward, helping with chores, bringing groceries, fixing things that weren't broken. One afternoon, he stopped in the middle of the kitchen and said, "Mom, how did you do it? All those years." I didn't answer right away. I didn't have a choice, I finally said, but that doesn't mean it didn't cost me. He nodded, eyes down. Dad never talked about that part. No, I said, he wouldn't. The truth sat between us, heavy but honest. A month later, I got a letter from court. Ryan and Chloe had officially pleaded guilty. Forgery, attempted fraud, charges that followed them everywhere now. Job applications, background checks, reputation. Chloe's influencer accounts vanished overnight. Brands dropped her like she'd never existed. Ryan lost his management position before sentencing even started. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. One evening, while sorting old paperwork, I found something I hadn't seen before. Margaret's notebooks. Pages and pages of careful handwriting. Dates. Times. Notes. Every missed visit. Every broken promise. Every night she cried and asked why her kids never came. And then, between all that pain, lines about me. Elena sat with me tonight. Elena held my hand. Elena didn't leave. That's when the idea hit me. Not like lightning. More like a slow, steady realization. What happened to me wasn't rare. Caregivers get erased all the time. Used up, overlooked, tossed aside when the work is done. I used part of Margaret's money to start something small. A weekly meetup. Coffee. Folding chairs. A space where caregivers could talk without being judged or rushed. I called it Margaret's house. Daniel volunteered every weekend. He listened more than he talked. One night after everyone left, he said, "I get it now." Get what? I asked. Showing up is the whole thing. I smiled. Some lessons just take longer. I thought rebuilding my life would be the hardest part. I was wrong. The hardest part was deciding who still deserved a place in it. People think forgiveness is about the other person. It's not. Forgiveness is about deciding how much access someone gets to your life after they've shown you who they really are. That lesson didn't come easy. Ryan started calling from prison about 3 months into his sentence. At first, I didn't answer. I let the phone ring until it stopped. Then one day I picked up. "Elena," he said, voice rough. "I just want to talk." I leaned against the kitchen counter. The same counter where I'd once crushed pills for his mother while he slept upstairs. "I'm listening," I said. He talked about stress, about bad decisions, about how things got out of hand. He never said sorry. Not really. He said, "I never thought you'd go this far." That told me everything. This far. I repeated, "You mean standing up for myself?" Silence. "I'm not doing this to you." I said calmly, "I'm doing this for me." I hung up. Chloe sent a letter. Handwritten. Dramatic. 6 pages of blame wrapped in fake accountability. I didn't respond. Daniel stayed. He showed up early. Stayed late. Asked real questions. One afternoon, he helped me hang a sign outside the house. Margaret's house. Caregiver support and resources. He stepped back and smiled. "She'd love this," he said. "She already does," I replied. The support group grew fast. People showed up exhausted, angry, guilty, broken, and slowly they healed. So did I. On the 1-year anniversary of Margaret's death, Daniel and I planted roses in the backyard. Red ones. Strong ones. "She chose you," Daniel said quietly. Yes, I answered, and she taught me how to choose myself. That night, I slept without guilt for the first time in decades. I thought closure would come with time. I didn't realize it would come with a final question, one that would decide the rest of my life. The question came from Daniel one quiet evening as we sat on the back porch, watching the sun drop behind the trees. Do you think you'll ever talk to Dad again? I didn't answer right away. The roses behind us were starting to bloom, Margaret's roses, strong stems, deep red petals, the kind that didn't ask permission to exist. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but only if I want to, not because I owe him anything. Daniel nodded slowly. That mattered. For most of my life, I'd lived like love was something you earned by sacrificing yourself. Like being useful was the same thing as being valued. Margaret taught me otherwise. Ryan served his sentence quietly. No appeals. No public statements. Chloe faded from the internet just as fast as she'd built her following. Fame doesn't survive truth very well. Margaret's house kept growing. We helped caregivers understand their rights. We connected people with respite care. We made space for grief that never gets acknowledged. One night, after a long meeting, I sat alone in the living room and opened an old photo album. Tucked into the back was one last note from Margaret. If you're reading this, then you're home. Stop shrinking. Take up space. Build something that's yours. I cried, not from sadness, but from release. I wasn't a caretaker anymore. I was a woman with a home, a purpose, and a voice. And for the first time in my life, I used it. They tried to erase me. They tried to rewrite my worth. But the truth outlived all of them. And sometimes, the greatest inheritance isn't money or property. It's finally knowing who you are.